Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. Brandon again. In this video, we're going to take a look at the Sorinex XL half rack, which is part of this series, Finding the Right Rack for my own garage gym build. If you didn't see the previous videos in this series, I cover both the context of the search that I'm looking for, as well as I cover the Rep Fitness HR5000. Now, if you don't want to take the time to view those, which I think you should because it's important context, and I'll link them in the description box below. Some basics behind my search. I'm looking for a new rack that's going to go in the garage gym. That's roughly going to last me about a year and a half until I move into my new house and can build a bigger gym because I'll have more space. And as part of that, I still really want a nice rack. So I'm looking for something that's 3x3, has 1-inch attachments, doesn't take up a huge footprint, and also isn't extremely tall because it will eventually be going back in a basement more than likely. As part of that, I also want something that has high resale value because I'll probably be flipping this after that year and a half or so. At least I think I will, or hope I will. So that being said, I want to take a look at Sorinex today. And Sorinex is interesting because it's kind of my white whale. It's something that I've been chasing for a couple of years. And I say that because when I did my initial basement build a couple years ago, I actually had a fully built out solution from Sorinex that I had paid for and they were working on, but it got to the point where it just never happened. And the problem with that is that I spent some time building out a 6-post rack, had an integrated platform with that, bumper plates, benches, the whole 9 yards, so to say. I think it was like a $5,000 to $6,000 order, so not cheap by any means for a home gym build. And as part of that, I wanted that build to be done before I had my wedding, my subsequent honeymoon, traveling for work. So I contacted them roughly 2 or 3 months before I knew I would be gone. I told them my parameters, what I was looking for, and when I needed to get done by. They said they could do that. And that time basically came and went, and I got sick of waiting even past that point and decided to go with Rogue, which was a blessing in disguise because I really liked my Rogue setup, but Sorinex was the one that got away. So that being said, and the fact that I'm looking for a new rack now, I definitely wanted to give them another shot as they have a lot of stuff that's very appealing to me, and they're doing a ton of great work when it comes to facilities, which is their main avenue, professional sports teams, universities, facility outfitting for the military. And the home gym isn't really what they cater towards, but they have some offerings that are very appealing to me. So again, I wanted to give them a look. One of the nice things about them too is they finally updated their website, which was in much need of a refresh. And now they offer some pricing, but not a ton. But again, that's really because they don't typically just sell one-off pieces of equipment. It's typically in large bulk orders. So you need to work with a rep in order to do that. And even if you want to buy just a single piece of equipment from them, you still need to work with a sales representative to get all that stuff ordered up. You can't just go to the site and put something in your cart and put in your address and have it shipped. You need to actually talk to somebody, which in today's digital age isn't always a thing that some people are willing to do. So I want to walk you through that. So we're here on Sorinex's new site, and we're going to be taking a look, as I mentioned, the XL series. They do offer other series of racks, and outside of the Dark Horse, which is kind of their basic rack, being 3x3, but it also uses smaller hardware, the XL series is where I'm going to land. The Apex series, while it might be great for a home gym, just to give you an idea, the base price starts at around $7,000 for that. Now, it's not a very basic rack in terms of what it comes with, so that was out of my price range. And again, even though it doesn't take up a large footprint necessarily, it's not something I was looking for, given the fact that I'm going to be eventually flipping this. They do have a base camp, and that's somewhat similar to the XL series that we're going to be looking at, but the base camp is their highest end offering. Includes some other bonus features like laser cut holes and some stuff like that. But the XL series is what we're going to look at because number one, it has a half rack already spec'd out and it includes the pricing. Whereas the base camp series, you have to work with them for any kind of custom quote. You can't even get baseline pricing on stuff. So we're going to take a look here at the XL series half rack. And as you can see right here from the main page, the base price of it is $1,200, which is actually right in line with what the Rep Fitness rack would be of $11.99 if you were to get one of the colored variants that they offer and not just the standard metallic black. So that's a big benefit in my mind. And again, for this video, I'm going to be talking about the pros. I'll also be talking about the cons and just throwing some of my feedback in there. And I'll do that not only with this rack, as I've done with the Rep Fitness rack, but also the monster rack from Rogue that I'm looking at, just to kind of weigh all of my options between these three. So number one, the first thing that I'm going to talk about, the benefit being the base price of $11.99. Now, that being said, this is extremely appealing to me because, again, it's in line with the Rep Fitness, which, let's be honest, Rep Fitness isn't as high of a quality or known for their quality as much as, let's say, someone like Sorinex. So in the Rep Fitness video, I mentioned I thought I would have a hard time getting my money back if I was going to go ahead and resell it, which I'm planning on doing. For the Sorinex, I could honestly see paying $1,200 for this rack and getting $1,000 for it, reselling it a year and a half later, no problem. And I base that based off of my own experience with buying and selling used equipment. Sorinex holds its value extremely well, so that's also a definitely appealing thing for me on it. Now, talking a little bit about customization, because I think that's important too. That's one of the things that I like to do. Truth be told, it doesn't really add much to the rack itself, but it is nice to be able to put your own flair on it, so to say. What's different about the Sorinex offering versus the Rep is that when you choose Rep customization, it's with the rack itself. For this XL series, you're actually dealing with just the attachment colors. So standard, it's black, but you have a choice of roughly around a dozen others that you can pick from. So let's say, for instance, we wanted green attachments. We could click that and it's green. Probably doesn't show as well on your camera, so let's take a look at red, which sticks out more. And that's going to be for both the spotter arms, which are included. And again, they have UHMW padding, both where the bar goes and where it connects to the rack, which is nice. And this one comes with standard J-cups versus the upgraded sandwich J-cups that you found on the Rep Fitness rack, but at least they're standard. And again, you get a lot of the other basics when it comes to the half rack itself, like integrated plate storage, pull-up bars. But in this case, the pull-up bars are just your standard single bar versus the angled up multi-grip ones we saw on the Rep one. So you still get a lot of built-in options for this, which again, color customization for me, which, oh, by the way, is no extra cost here versus the $50 it costs on Rep's end, is a nice touch, and you have a lot more color options than you do with Rep Fitness. One of the other things I really want to talk about with Sorinex that's appealing to me is their innovation. So a downside for the Rep Fitness rack that I had mentioned is the fact that they only have one attachment currently for that line of racks that uses that 1-inch hardware, and that's just a dip bar. Sorinex has been in the game much longer, producing this type of equipment for much longer, which means they have a wide variety of products available, and they're continuing to push the edge and boundaries of what they're making. So they're always coming out with new products, which a lot of companies also end up copying. But that being said, one of the things that's appealing to me in my search is being able to kind of stick within the same system, meaning that if I buy a rack from a company, I'd like to know that I can also buy a lot of attachments specifically made by that company. I will say on the flip side though, using a rack that's 3x3 with 1-inch hardware opens up a lot of possibilities for converting or adapting other equipment to whatever rack you buy. So I can fully understand that point as well. But the fact that Sorinex innovates is something that I can be a part of. One of the things I didn't really touch upon in my last video is just orientation from where the rack is coming from. So Rep Fitness imports everything from overseas. Sorinex is USA. Rogue, USA, even though sometimes depending on which piece of equipment you're dealing with, they do outsource and import stuff as well, namely plates. But to my knowledge, a lot of the rack work for both of those other companies are done in-house, where Rep Fitness is not done in-house. So that's just something that you might want to keep in mind as well. So for this, let's talk about, again, the pros. The price definitely is a pro for me, being the same price as the Rep Fitness rack. The resale value on this is very high, as I've already mentioned as well. You do get some color customization, which is nice. One of the things that I want to talk about, though, however, is the lead time on Sorinex, which is probably the worst out of all of the racks that I'm looking at. As you can see on the website, it says made to order. I spoke with the Sorinex rep, as again, you have to do as part of this, and the initial lead time they gave me was 6 to 8 weeks. So I'm just going to say 2 months time to build, because I've known from talking to other people that, again, and my own personal experience years ago, Sorinex tends to take longer than they say in some cases. So about 2 months time to get this, which is a turnoff for me. The good thing is I talked to the actual Sorinex rep and they gave me a couple options. Number one, they offered to upgrade me to the Basecamp uprights, which again include laser engraved numbers at no additional cost, which would speed up the time a little bit. So instead of 6 to 8 weeks, they said it could be done in 4 to 6 weeks. Again, longer than I would have liked to seen, but quicker than initially I had thought I was going to be. They also offer the option to expedite your order, but that's going to come at an additional cost, which I was not willing to do regardless. But it is there if you want to basically pay more money so they move you up in line. I don't think that's fair for you, the consumer, or necessarily fair for other people who might have been waiting several weeks and they get bumped because someone's paying more money. I understand that's how business works, but just from a practicality standpoint, it's not something that I necessarily agree with. So that's a kind of a push on a price in my regards, because the base price might be more if you're paying for that expedited shipping on it. Now, speaking of that, some of the things I want to talk about in the negative are also the price, because even though the base price can be very attractive, and like I said, I'm not considering the expedited price here in this matter, but $1,200 was the same price point that I got from Rep Fitness. And even though Rep offers some basic upgrades that Sorinex does not offer as part of the all-in price, the Sorinex offering, like I said, has higher resale value and is a well-known brand, innovation, all that kind of stuff already. But what really grinds my gears with Sorinex is the price when it comes to the shipping. So let me go ahead and pull up my quote that I received from Sorinex. And what you'll see on here is number one, after tax, which they do charge, which by the way, Rep Fitness did not charge me tax when I put in my quote through them. So $120 for tax. This is going to vary based off where you are and what state you live in. My subtotal is $1,320, which is almost at the price of what Rep was charging for everything shipped. Theirs was, I believe, off the top of my head, $1,390, so about $70 less than that. But take a look at what the freight charge here is through Sorinex. $542.55, which is roughly 40% of what I was paying. So it bumps my order up to almost $1,900 all in to get it delivered. And again, the time frame on that is 4 to 6 weeks. So out of all the 3 racks I'm looking at, spoiler alert, this one was the most expensive as is. And also the longest to actually get to me. But again, this isn't really Sorinex's market. The individual home user, they cater more to the bigger facilities. I understand that's part of the play right here. Now for me, I talked to my rep about this and asked why the shipping was so high, because in my experience, freight shipping to me, no matter where the other company is, usually tends to be about $200 to $300. Sorinex is located in South Carolina. I'm in Rhode Island, so at least it's staying on the East Coast. And you might think that that's a far way to travel, and it could be. But again, it's further to Rogue in Columbus, Ohio, I believe, than it is to Charleston, and Rogue would charge me a lot less. Rep Fitness, which is based out in California, I believe. They might have just moved to Las Vegas. They charged me $200. So Sorinex was high, so I asked them about it. And they said, unfortunately, our shipping is just high, and it's also going to be going up very soon. Little did I know how soon that would be, because I spoke to another person who was looking at getting this XL Series half rack, who's located in West Virginia, so a couple hundred miles closer than I am to Sorinex. But he was charged, I think, got a quote 4 days later or so, and I'm going to pull up an example of what he was charged, which you may not be able to see really good here because, again, I grabbed this screenshot, so the quality isn't as high, so I'm going to kind of walk through it. So he has the XL Series half rack. He also decided to upgrade the single chin-up bar that it comes standard with to the Batwing Arch one, which ends up being almost $200 more for that. But his subtotal was $1,550, so, about $200 more than my order. But take a look at his estimated freight. Whereas mine was $542 to ship, his is $1,300 out of a total order of $1,500. So you're talking about almost paying as much in shipping to get the actual equipment to you. If you take a look at the dates here, you can see exactly when he ordered versus when I ordered, or supposedly ordered, got a quote from, I should say. Don't want to give any spoilers around. But this is ridiculous in my mind, and one of the biggest turnoffs to go with Sorinex is the pricing in general, because again, as I mentioned, they don't typically offer stuff on their website. You have to speak with somebody. There's these additional charges that are hard to get an idea of, and while initially the base price looked very attractive, given the fact that in order to get the Sorinex to myself was $1,900 versus roughly $1,400 through Rep, that $500 is a huge difference, because if you can think of all the other equipment you could potentially buy with that, that could be a deal breaker for some. So the shipping on here is potentially a huge negative in my book. One of the things that's also a huge negative for me, based off of the context of what I'm looking at, is if you take a look at the specifications. The bright side on this one is if you take a look at the actual depth, again, the rack appears to be about a 24-inch depth. The bottom looks to be, I think it actually says, is 64 inches when you count for the feet, but there's no overhang up top like you have on the Rep version, because again, the Rep version has those band pull pegs up top. This one does not, so you save some clearance up top, which is nice in terms of depth, because again, I'm working with limited overhead clearance. But the height here kind of kills it for me because it's 95 inches. So if you remember from the Rep video, with the pull-up bar turned up, it's 98. You turn it upside down, it's 93 inches. But 95 inches is tough. This would definitely fit in the garage, but I'm very hesitant to say this would fit in a new basement, because basement ceilings typically aren't that high. And even though I'm planning on having a taller basement ceiling as part of my build costs, 95 inches is still tough to pull off, so this might not fit in my new space. So that's definitely something that I want to take into consideration. And then finally, the last negative, which I've already kind of touched upon, is the potential availability aspect of this being, again, taking potentially 4 to 6 weeks, maybe longer. I don't know. So that's the Sorinex XL half rack. Again, there's a lot of pros on it, but there's also a lot of negatives, mostly when it comes to shipping and whatnot. And compared to the Rep Fitness, it's tough to kind of say what the differences is in terms of value and perceived value and return on investment when I sell it. But again, it's a very appealing option, potentially, as part of these 3 racks I'm looking at. So hopefully that gives you some insight into my thought process on this particular rack. Tune into the next video, which I'll cover the Rogue Monster half rack, and again, do the same, the pros and the cons. And then the following videos past that, where I tell you what I made my decision on and why. And then finally, the last video of the series, where I'll show you the rack itself, which, spoiler alert, it's here and it's awesome and I like it a lot. So hopefully this helps you. If you have any questions about any of this or other equipment you're looking at and just want my feedback on what I would think about it, let me know in the comments section below. In the meantime, as always, thanks for watching and stay big.